A Lit in 10 discussion with Lisa M. Kendrick. A Cup of Tea by Katherine Mansfield. Katherine Mansfield pioneered a new style of writing characterized by mood and suggestion rather than dramatic action. Her stories illuminate the realities of personal relationships and class divisions. She found her native country of New Zealand to be provincial and immigrated to England. Mansfield struggled with relationships, her family, depression, and tuberculosis, but her writing is legendary for its innovation and unconventionality. This selection is in third-person limited point of view. The narrator is an outside voice that relates the thoughts, feelings, and observations of one character. Readers may feel as if they're looking over the shoulder of the point of view character. Writers don't explicitly state everything that goes on in a character's minds, so readers have to make inferences or logical assumptions based on evidence. One thing we must often infer is a character's motivation. This piece was written in 1922, and women's lives were changing. During World War I, women in Great Britain joined the workforce, taking jobs traditionally held by men. This entry into the public sphere energized the women's suffrage movement, and by 1928, women had the right to vote. Modern women drove cars, took jobs, and wore short skirts. But women belonging to the upper class continued to live sheltered lives. The main character, Rosemary Fell, is considered wealthy but not beautiful. She examines a trinket in a London shop and is approached by a poor young woman who asks for money for a cup of tea. Rosemary decides to take the girl home with her. She serves her tea, comforts her when she cries, and promises to help her. Rosemary's husband expresses disapproval of his wife's action, but also remarks that her guest is extremely pretty. Rosemary promptly sends the young girl away. Rosemary is depressed by the rainy weather, and she comes across as self-absorbed and overly dramatic. She experiences the day as horrible and decides that a self-indulgent treat is all that she needs to make the day better. She feels lonely, obviously, and when she meets Miss Smith begging for tea, she thinks that she has found a new purpose to make her rainy day better. Rosemary encourages the young girl to come with her to her house. She seems to be thinking about how she will display her own generosity and not about the girl herself. The narrator notes that Rosemary is longing to begin to be generous, and to play it convincingly, she will offer to remove the girl's things herself. Rosemary thinks the girl then is lazy and inconsiderate because she doesn't help Rosemary remove her coat. She doesn't even realize the girl's about to faint from hunger. Rosemary shows off her house, serves tea on fine porcelain. She treats Miss Smith like a curiosity and a pet. She dries her tears. She soothes her fears. She promises that she will make things better, but she doesn't have any bit of a plan. When her husband Philip comes home from work, he doesn't have patience for Rosemary's pet project. He knows how to manipulate his wife, calling Miss Smith astonishingly pretty. He hits a nerve, and Rosemary sends Miss Smith packing with some spare change. The scene ends with Rosemary preening for Philip and fishing for compliments. It is ironic that Rosemary, who at first feels vastly superior to Miss Smith, is by the end made to feel inadequate. Readers expect that the encounter will not have a deep effect on Rosemary, but actually it shakes her to the core. Rosemary comes across as unlikable and vain and superficial, but it would have been worse if the narrator had focused on Miss Smith and her troubles and how she must have felt when she was sent away. In this piece, Mansfield is criticizing the conventions of marriage. Rosemary is entirely dependent on Philip, emotionally and economically, while Philip treats her like a child or a pet. She's also commenting on the empty life led by the rich, as evidenced by Rosemary's attempts to fill the emotional void in her life with possessions. Mansfield's conveyance of Rosemary's self-centeredness and insecurity makes the character seem very real. Thanks for stopping by. Nothing enhances cognitive abilities, increases vocabulary, or expands horizons more than reading. Be sure to check out my other videos in this Lit in 10 discussion series.